Two big moves. Everyone knows about them. Really sent some waves through the sporting world, definitely through the baseball world. Move number one being Juan Soto to the Yankees. Do I think Juan Soto to the Yankees is as big a deal as people are making it? No, I don't. Not only because I was a Padres fan and I watched Juan Soto play for the last couple of years, but because baseball is a sport where one guy and one player cannot, has not, and will not be the deciding factor of a team's success. I don't care if it's the best starting pitcher in the world. I don't care if it's the best hitter in the world. Prime example, Shohei Ohtani. Oh, and his teammate, Mike Trout. Two players that were the best in their particular sports on the same team, and the team itself had no success because baseball is a team-oriented sport at its finest and at its roots. You have to pitch well, you have to play defense well, all 9 guys, and you have to produce offensively in the lineup from at least 5, 6, 7 different guys at least the league average to above average level. Depth in baseball from a roster construction standpoint is maybe more important than any other sport, any other league. In terms of you have to have production up and down your lineup. You have 9 individual players getting the same number of reps, same time of contribution. And then you got one pitcher pitching one day, and you got 5 total starting pitchers. Then you got like 8 guys in the bullpen. So do I think Juan Soto going to the Yankees is going to transform that organization and the Yankees are all of a sudden going to win the World Series? No, and hell no. The Yankees are multiple pieces away from like actually being a better baseball team. Juan Soto is an excellent baseball player. Aaron Judge is awesome. They got Alex Verdugo. They've got Garrett Cole. They've got some pieces, and they're definitely going to be competitive next year. There's no question about it. But the Yankees treating Juan Soto like this acquisition is going to be transforming their organization entirely. It's simply not going to. Now, instead of 2 players with an OPS plus over 100, they have 3 players with OPS plus over 100 last season. Okay, how many extra wins is that going to add to your 162 game regular season? 3, 4? So now you're, instead of an 82 win team, you're 86 win team. Now the Yankees could go out and make a bunch more moves and drastically improve. But I don't think Juan Soto is going to put them over the hump. That's the last missing piece they needed. Now the Yankees are going to be the Yankees again. It is cool. I will agree. It is cool to see a left-handed slugger and pure hitter like Juan Soto end up at a stadium like Yankee Stadium, because I think his talents are going to be maximized. He's probably going to hit 40 plus home runs next year. He's probably going to have a great offensive season. Maybe he gets extended. Maybe he doesn't. He's going to flourish. He wants to be in a big market. He wanted to be the superstar. He wasn't on the Padres because he was overshadowed by a handful of other guys on that roster. Now with the Yankees, he has the opportunity with Aaron Judge to be side by side, 2-headed monster, go out and tear it up in the American League East. But those 2 guys can't be the only ones producing. And how did the Yankees do when they lost Aaron Judge from a lingering injury throughout the year? Without Aaron Judge, the Yankees were a bad team, like a bad baseball team. Not average, but they were bad. Now, if Judge and Soto stay healthy the whole year, Yankees are probably looking at 88 to 91 wins. And that's good. That gets you in the playoffs, especially with the expanded playoff format. Juan Soto going to the Yankees, it's not enough for the Yankees to get over the hump. Still a lot of work to do. And also, if anybody knows anything about 1 or 2 superstar players not being the deciding factor, it's baseball fans with the Angels and Ohtani and Trout. Those 2 guys are the 2 of the best to ever do it. And they were on the same team for how many different years and amounted to nothing. Soto to the Yankees, good move for them. They need to do a lot more to be actually well-rounded and competitive, not just for the upcoming season, but for years and years to come. Not to mention, Juan Soto's only on a 1-year deal. There is no guarantee that Juan Soto ends up back with the Yankees. There's no guarantee. The Yankees have the financial means to potentially re-sign him to a long-term contract. But if Juan Soto goes to the Yankees this year and they go 82 and 80, he is out of there. He's gone. If he has an okay to a little bit above average year, he's gone. There's a lot of other teams and a lot of other situations that could potentially land a guy like Juan Soto. So I think everybody with the Soto deal needs to gain a little bit of perspective and just realize he is not the piece that's going to send them over the edge. Offensively, they struggled last year. No question about it. They still have a lot of holes in their lineup. They still need some help on the pitching side. By the way, they gave up 4 pitchers, including the minor league pitcher of the year, Drew Thorpe, to the Padres in exchange for Juan Soto. So now they're thin on pitching depth. One of their most reliable guys, Michael King, he's up and out of there. Yankee fans are happy. They should be. They got a great player. They are going to be a better team with Juan Soto than they were without Juan Soto. But this doesn't move the needle for the Yankees, in my opinion, especially considering how much they gave up and where they need to build and add depth for their roster next year to have sustained success for the entire season. Speaking of individual players, the biggest news out of the baseball world this offseason so far was where Shohei Ohtani was going to sign. He announced on his Instagram he is signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers have been planning for this. For those of you who don't follow baseball very well, like they don't have a salary cap, but they have a competitive balance tax, which is some form of a salary cap, except they can go over it. They just pay penalties back to the league if they exceed the spending limits. But the competitive balance tax is pretty high, and the Dodgers have been cutting salary, only keeping a couple of really superstar cornerstone pieces and then using young controllable talent to kind of fill out the rest of the roster. Couple of trades, couple of, veteran pitching signings, things like that. They were well underneath the competitive balance tax, fully prepared to make a gigantic offer to Shohei Ohtani. And the reports are that they did that. Nothing has been officially announced by the Dodgers, which is interesting. I guess they probably still have to file the paperwork and get everything fully figured out. Ohtani to the Dodgers. It is a 10-year contract for $700 million. Average annual value of $70 million a year. $35 million for the pitcher he is, $35 million for the hitter he is. The problem with this contract, the problem with Shohei Ohtani getting $700 million, is I can tell you right now, the pitching side of his contributions is already up in the air. That's not to say he couldn't come back and be just as good, just as effective as he has in his previous time in the major leagues. But that being said, he's coming off his second Tommy John surgery. And if it gets to a point in 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, where they go, you know what, we got to bang this pitching. He keeps getting banged up. He isn't able to be a regular piece in the lineup. He needs another surgery, whatever the case is, and he becomes just an offensive contributor. It is almost impossible to justify paying just an offensive contributor in baseball an average annual salary of $70 million. It is almost impossible to justify that based on the value of the rest of the guys in the league, the competitive balance tax, all those other considerations. I understand a lot of his money is going to be deferred so that it doesn't impact the competitive balance tax. I'm just talking strictly an average annual value of $70 million. If he becomes a hitter only at any point in his contract, in my opinion, it is a bad contract. Now, on the flip side, the ceiling for this contract is Ohtani becomes another top 5 starting pitcher in the major leagues, a top 3 hitter in the league. And if he does that for 6 out of the 10 years in this contract, if he is a successful contributor on the pitcher's mound and he hits at the same level he has been for 6 of the 10 years of this contract, it's worth it. At his peak, Shohei Ohtani is worth $35 million as a pitcher on the mound in today's day and age, today's market. As an offensive player, he's worth 35, probably 40, maybe 45 million a year as an offensive contributor. So if he can do both of those things after he comes back from this arm surgery, and he can be the same contributor he was at the same high level, offensively and defensively, for 6 of the 10 years of this contract, it is a good contract for the Dodgers. The only problem comes in if Ohtani can't or ends up not being a contributor on the pitcher's mound for one reason or another. They shut him down. He gets hurt again. So many different factors. And he becomes just a hitter, plays outfield, DHs. This is a bad contract. 10 years, $700 million. That's insane. If anybody deserves to be the highest paid player in baseball, it is unequivocally Shohei Ohtani. But on the flip side, if he ends up not contributing as a pitcher 3 years in, 5 years in, 7 years into this contract, and he is a hitter only, DHing, it will be a bad contract because it is impossible. It is impossible. I don't want to hear any arguments otherwise. It is impossible to justify an offensive only player making an average annual salary of $70 million a year. It is impossible to justify that, especially based on and considering the rest of the league and the guys that he's hitting up with and hitting against. Guys that are making 30, 35, 40. Mike Trout's making 45. Mike Trout plays defense, plays a premier position in center field. A lot of other guys play premier positions. They contribute defensively. If Soto's a hitter only and has no or limited defensive contributions, it's impossible to justify $70 million a year. So for the Dodgers, This Dodgers Ohtani, what was I going to say? Contract. Ohtani is what I said. This contract from the Dodgers to Ohtani is a massive, massive, massive gamble. It is a massive gamble for the Dodgers. The part I want to make sure people know, if he becomes a hitter only, it's impossible to justify $70 million a year for Shohei Ohtani. However, the only other part that needs to be in serious consideration in this contract that I don't think a lot of people are considering is the fact that the foundational underlying thing with Ohtani that no other player has in the entire sport is the wholehearted support of an entire developed country. Literally, Japan is all in all the time on Shohei Ohtani as a baseball player. He's the pride and joy of the Japanese culture, and the value generated from him being on your team from a social media standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a sponsorship standpoint, from a TV contract standpoint, it is almost impossible to quantify that. That's the only part of this contract where I'm like, you know what? Even if Ohtani is just garbage for 10 years, he's got the entire country of Japan supporting the Dodgers. Just the Dodgers. The Dodgers fandom just grew by 20% because an entire country is now Dodger fans for Shohei Ohtani. And that, to me, is super valuable, super important. One thing I didn't consider early on in this contract, but something that everybody needs to consider moving forward, because Ohtani is a national treasure. Not just, of course, in the U.S. because he plays in the U.S., but in Japan. He is Superman in Japan. And not the worst looking guy. Heartthrob to a degree. He's got every single demographic going right after him. And that part of it, to me, could potentially end up saving this contract if the on-field contributions from Ohtani aren't quite what they have been in the past. But I do think, and I will stand by, if he becomes a hitter only at any point in this contract, it's almost impossible to justify giving a guy $70 million a year. Average annual value, I know there's whatever, but $70 million a year to just hit. That's crazy. That's crazy. But good for Ohtani. He got his money. He did whatever he needed to do. $700 million is absolutely astronomical. He deserves it to a degree. I just hope and pray he can play and be healthy contributor, because watching him play is so sick. He's so good. And it's mind-boggling to watch a guy throw 100 and hit home runs, 45, 50 home runs. It's crazy. If he can do that, if he can stay healthy, boy, oh boy, are the Dodgers going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem. That guy's a monster.